What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful.com. Here with the man you know, PJ Black, also known as Justin Gabriel. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing? I'm just sitting at home. It's raining in LA right now, so I'm just doing a whole lot of nothing.
I was curious as to where you were based out of. Like when I added you on the app we're using, it says Tampa, and of course a lot of people know you're from South Africa, but you're based out of LA right now.
I am, yes. I lived in Tampa because WWE, when they moved me to the US, they moved me to FCW, which was in Tampa at the time. And, I lived there for, 6, 7 years, and I've been in Tampa, LA for like 4 years now. I moved here for Lucha.
Yeah, I live in Kentucky, and I'm always surprised at how many wrestlers still live here because so many of them got sent to Louisville, and a lot of people just end up sticking around there or in the area. So you're in LA. How does that affect your travel, as somebody who's working with Ring of Honor or as an independent guy? It seems like the vast majority of people like that are on the East Coast or in the Midwest.
It is. It makes traveling a little bit harder, but it does make it fun because I get the extra miles, and I have 1 million miles on 3 different airlines, so I get treated like royalty. Plus, in my new ROH contract, I basically pick my own flights, which is fantastic, which never happens in other companies.
That's something I wanted to ask you about. I remember you doing an interview with Chris Van Vliet about a year ago, and you talked about your Ring of Honor deal, and you said it lasted a year, and then after that it was month to month, but you're saying that you have a new Ring of Honor deal now.
I do. I just signed a multi-year deal because I was happy with the terms. They literally gave me everything I wanted and a few extra things, and it's really good money. And I feel like ROH is going to be one of the standout companies this year. I don't know. I might be biased, but I know there's a new shiny toy in town and stuff like that. But if you look at the roster, man, we have a freaking really clean roster right now.
So how long are we going to see you in Ring of Honor? You said multi-year. Are any specifics you can provide?
No, I signed for multiple with another choice, but I don't know. I'm 40 this year. I'm gonna see how long my body can go. Looking at Taker gives me some hope. Just gotta take care of myself.
That's the thing. It's like 40 isn't what it used to be, and that's like a big talking point these days. Like back in the WCW days, you would always hear people be like, "Oh my gosh, he's 40." Now it's just like, well, everybody's performing. Well, not everybody, but people like you are performing so great at that age.
Well, so here's the thing. My dad was a wrestler and a very successful businessman, and he told me that the best time of his life was from 40 onwards, in business, in relationships, in wrestling, in anything. So I'm kind of hoping I follow in his footsteps. I feel good. I'm going to do this until my body won't allow me anymore. And if you look at guys like Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, Taker, look at all the top guys ever. They did their best work between 40 and 45, if you think about it. So there's still hope.
So we're obviously in a very wild time right now. People are at home. This is very unique. We're seeing empty arena wrestling and all that. And unfortunately, Ring of Honor had to cancel some dates. How are you passing the time?
Oh, man. So I read a lot of books. I don't know if you can see here. That whole top row, I've already finished. I don't own a television, so I read books. I just bought some tools. I draw a lot of sacred geometry.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, and I work out at home. I hardly ever go to the gym. On the road, I'll go to the gym if some of the boys want to go to the gym, but I always work out in my hotel room anyway. I do stretches, yoga, I do calisthenics. I have these 2 bands and these 2 parallettes, and I can do my whole body on it. I know everyone here is freaking out, I cannot go to a gym. I'm going to lose all my muscle. I'm like, I was prepared for this.
Yeah. So is the not having screens in your house type of thing, is that harder to deal with now than it was before? Or is this business as usual for you?
Oh, yeah, no, this is great for me. Now I actually get to read all these books that I bought. I have a stack of books that I have to get through, man. I don't know where this came from. At school, I never used to read books. I think in high school, I read one book. I read it halfway because we had to write a report on it, and I ended up watching the movie. Failed. But I never used to read. And then about 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago when I moved to LA, I sold my TV and I just read books. There's so much knowledge out there, man. And the more I learn, I don't do fiction or novels or anything like that. So the more stuff I learn, the more I want to learn. It's weird. It's like I'm absorbing all this info now that I was supposed to absorb when I was a child.
I see all those hard copy books up there. Are you a Kindle guy at all, or do you stick to cracking open a book?
Books, cracking open a book, and then I have like one or two audiobooks if I go
Yeah.
walk around or walk my dog outside or whatever, you know.
I haven't been interested in an audiobook until I read an excerpt from Jim Ross's recent book. And he's recounting a story with Vince McMahon where Vince McMahon is learning that a wrestler got his girlfriend breast implants. And a Vince McMahon quote is, "Titties notwithstanding, are you ready to come back to work, pal?" And I want to hear Jim Ross read that to me.
Right?
I want to hear him say that. So
I want to hear Vince say that.
yeah, well, I feel like that wouldn't be that uncommon, or at least that's the popular thing. Because I
Right.
mean, even we were talking off the air about like some of the unique things that happened at WrestleMania. There's some self-awareness going on there, like with the puppet and all that stuff, saying things that he's now known to say. Like, and we were talking about the cinematic aspects of this, and we kind of compared it to Lucha Underground. Do you think we're going to see more stuff like this that we saw on that program?
I think so, definitely yes, and especially during this time where we cannot have a lot of fans in the arena. So during this time for sure, and if it works, if it's a success, we might see it going forward. I mean, we already see it in other promotions, and I've been working on something for a long, long time that's similar to this. I've just been waiting to pull the trigger on this brand new character that I'm doing. Man, I don't want to give you too many spoilers, but it's so much fun. It's going to be so cool.
While we're still somewhat on the topic of Vince, I transcribed an interview that you did about 4 or 5 years ago, and you had the best idea for the bunny that I've ever heard. About the Adam Rose bunny doing all this hardcore stuff, and then backstage they find him laid out and the head's rolled off, and it's Vince McMahon the whole time. I thought that was brilliant stuff. Is the creative aspect of pro wrestling one that you ever look to get into, like whether it be booking or creative writing or anything like that?
Yes, in a way, and that's what you're going to see that with this new character. Actually,
Okay.
It's going to be super fun. I like creating stuff like that. For me, that wrestling is an art form. You know, it's a way of storytelling, and there's so many ways that we can tell stories. Especially now with the new technology we have, and like empty arena matches, we have so many new things that we can play with. It's a fantastic time, and I always had good ideas in WWE, and I always got shut down. So for a while there, for like a year or two, it kind of felt like I didn't have good ideas. I was like, wait, maybe I don't have good ideas. So I kind of like started doubting myself, and that's a big thing. Like like the placebo effect, the opposite,
Yes.
the nocebo effect. That's a real thing, man. If you start doubting yourself. It's the same with this coronavirus going on. Everyone's like freaking out, like I'm gonna die, oh, I'm gonna get it. Like you're causing panic. You're putting us in the metaphysical world, so you're gonna get sick. That's how these things work. That's how positive thinking and attracting. What's the law of positivity or whatever? Manifesting things. That's how that works. So like I really thought that my ideas weren't good, and then when I left, I told a bunch of people my ideas, and they were all like, "Wow, these are great." So I was like, "Great!" So now I'm going to go on every podcast and tell all my ideas, And what's cool now is they've actually used some of my ideas, which is fantastic. Like people would think I'm mad about it, but I'm happy about it. I'm like, okay, so my ideas weren't that bad, so now I can go forth and create these ideas in different promotions or companies, if you will.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because Krista Joseph, who was heavily influential in Lucha Underground, had told me that like 90% of his ideas got shot down in WWE. Then he went to Lucha Underground. He told me that he didn't really use any of his ideas from WWE there, but then has since been rehired by WWE. So it seems like for at least a while, maybe the creative process wasn't as stimulating as it is now. I've noticed they've started to make more sense of things, but Lucha Underground was very creative, but it was very different than what you had experienced in WWE. What was that transition like for you?
Well, so Lucha was a TV show about wrestling. It wasn't a wrestling show, and it had some skits. It was a TV show. Like if there were only 2 or 3 matches per episode, yeah. So it was filmed completely differently. Like we filmed the live matches on weekends, and Monday to Friday we'll film the vignette stuff, the cool stuff. That's why it came out really cool, because it was done by real movie people. but yeah, I feel like it was a different. Being in Lucha 2 was fun because like I live in LA downtown in the Arts District, and I would walk around, and people who don't watch wrestling, who aren't wrestling fans, would recognize us. Be like, "Yo, you're from that show," which was cool because we created a lot of wrestling fans from that show. Like people would come up to me and be like, "Oh man, I started watching wrestling because of Lucha," which is so weird, but it's cool. Like because we'd go to all these like movie expos and stuff like that. You know, we wouldn't go to like the WrestleCon and stuff like that. We'll go do signings at movie expos, and you know, it's crazy what a time that we live in, because there's so many people that are wrestling fans that never admit it, but because of Lucha, everyone's like, yeah, this is great. And now they can go to WWE events and Ring of Honor events, and it's great.
So you signed with Ring of Honor about a year and a half ago. I remember you talking about maybe having talks with Impact and NXT. What was it that each of those brought to the table that interested you before you landed on Ring of Honor?
The main thing for me, creative freedom. And then, but Ring of Honor, like, came with a really good offer. Like, money-wise, you know, they're owned by Sinclair, so they're not doing too bad. Sinclair's worth more than WWE, I think.
Does the schedule fit to your liking a little bit more? I hear that a lot from Ring of Honor wrestlers, yes, that they get a lot more time with their friends, a lot more time with their family, and they're not really sacrificing anything in the money department.
Exactly. But that's soon going to change, but for the better. We don't know exactly yet, but the whole landscape of wrestling last year already changed with the new company starting, and just hold on to your hat. After this, by the end of this year, it's going to change completely once again.
Well, I mean, one of your old partners, Jack Evans, ended up there, and with another South African. It's like, come on now. You just switched him around.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they tagged in Mexico years ago.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, honestly, the styles, it seems like you would have fit really well there too. Did you ever have any conversations with anybody from there? Because I know that when you signed with Ring of Honor, or when you came into Ring of Honor, it was a couple months before they even announced that company.
Yep. I had some talks with people, and like a lot of people who had some influence wanted to put me with those two, and obviously those two also wanted that, but I don't want to get into the politics side of it, but something big happened, and I don't think I'll ever work there.
Who do you want to bury? Who do you want to bury today? I'm here for you.
So many people.
I'm here for you in this time.
I'm kidding. If anybody knows me, you know that I'm that person who's friends with everybody. I'm that guy. I don't play the game backstage. I just do my thing. It's like, whatever. I don't kiss ass. I don't do any of those things. You know, the politics, if you will, whatever. But there's only one person that I don't get along with in the wrestling business, and I don't know why. I mean, I wish I could tell you, but it's not a very PG story.
Really?
So maybe I'll tell you offline. Yeah.
Okay, fair. I noticed. I think it was a few months ago. I saw you post the video, but I'm not sure when it happened. You and RVD in South Africa in a boxing ring. Now, I've tried, when I did my wrestling training, it was in a boxing ring, and they're really hard. But this was a little bit of a different situation because you all went through the ring.
Yeah, it was crazy. That was in October last year, and surprisingly, none of us got hurt. We're currently suing that company. It's Title. They told us that they built many wrestling rings before, and so when we asked them, "Where did you guys get the dimensions for the ring?" and they said Wikipedia. So I'm like, wow,
no.
like. Yeah, that's another story for another day. I don't want to talk about anything negative right now.
Sure, I mean, I remember when we would roll around the ring, we would try to work corners, ropes, do 3/4 rolls instead of bumps, anything to keep from that. So I saw that and I was like, oh, and you don't often see a situation where a ring breaks where it's not supposed to. Usually there's a trap door situation. So fortunately, you all were okay throughout all that.
I know. Not one scratch, not one bruise. It was amazing. The promoter was freaking out because he was like, if someone gets hurt, that's going to cost him a lot of money. So he was like, just go home. And I was like, no, I got like 7 more falsies to go. Like, and then eventually we had called an audible, and then, we couldn't do much more in that ring.
So Ring of Honor has seen a pretty drastic shift over the last few months. Marty Scurll was given a new position, and we're already seeing some sort of cooperative agreements with NWA return. How has that been? Although I know it was a limited amount of time before you all had to cancel some shows because of the current situation. What was that experience like, and the shift backstage?
It was pretty cool. It was a kind of weird shift. Like I've known Marty ever since he started wrestling, so I've been around for a long time. I lived in England when all those kids started wrestling. I was there when Mark Haskins started training the first day, so I was around when, and now all these kids are superstars, which is fantastic. I'm happy for Marty because he's also a very creative person. I'm very excited to see what he's going to do with it, because he has big dreams. Obviously, he's friends with the other company, but I feel like it's going to be a little competition thing for him, and I think he's going to do well. I think he's going to thrive in that environment, and I'm very excited. Like when that was announced backstage, it was kind of like everyone was like, "Oh man," because a lot of people feel like they have to, like, I don't know, like suck up to the booker or be friends with him to get what they want, and a lot of people weren't happy about it. But they're, that's business. That's going to happen everywhere you go, and I think more people are happy about it. More people are excited about it because Marty is super creative and super talented. So yeah, let's see what happens.
And I've noticed little shifts, like Ring of Honor's YouTube is different now. I've noticed things like, of course, the NWA partnership. There are steps that are being made that seems like they weren't before. I remember last year they even changed like some colors around the ring. Not everything was the same color. What do you think is the primary motivation for these changes? Obviously there's a new company on the landscape. You got to stay competitive.
So here's another thing that made my choice very easy, signing with Ring of Honor. They actually care what talent think. I'm not saying other companies don't, but for the most part, they don't. They flew us all, the whole roster, to the head office and asked us, like, yo, if you guys would run this, what would you change? And we gave them a list. I think the list came out to like 140 things, I think, and they've already implemented 100 of those things, which gives me a lot of hope. Like in any other world, even outside of wrestling, that would never happen. I don't know what business you're in, but that usually never happens, or that takes years for that transition to happen. And in Ring of Honor, it happened like that. So I was like, oh, okay. So I tried a few things. I was like, hey, what if I do this? Can I get this? And it happened instantly. So I was like, okay, this is where I need to be, and because this company this year is going to grow. And I was so excited about the shows that were canceled, man. It was going to literally put us on the map, like Ring of Honor, like the Vegas show. Like all those little things that you said that you've noticed, people would have gone to the show and be like, this is completely different. This is completely different. Like we would have had, remember it was going to be the future versus the past.
I was stoked for that show.
Oh man, me too. Like just for the merchandise stand alone, man, like it was going to be like walking into a virtual reality room with it's going to feel like you were in the 80s and 90s on this side and feel like you were in the future on this side. It was going to be so epic. It was going to be something completely unique, and I'm just so sad that fans didn't get to experience that.
So I'm fascinated by this meeting. When did this meeting occur when they flew everybody out?
That was, I forget when it was, but it was when we had a little bit of downtime. And it was optional too. You could choose if you wanted to go and if you didn't want to go. And it was cool that everyone went because it just shows like the camaraderie, the brotherhood. And that for me is another thing. Like everyone is. That's why Lucha was so successful, I think, because after every single show, the whole crew hung out every single day. That you could tell the product was freaking amazing. Like the matches of Lucha was insane.
So was this a meeting with like Ring of Honor personnel or Sinclair personnel? How did that go? This is a very interesting note.
Everybody. It was at the Sinclair head office, actually. And I wonder if I'm even supposed to talk about that. But I'm not giving away. Right?
Can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But I think it's a positive thing, knowing that these companies are not only wanting to know, but are actively listening to this because how many times have you seen complete companies like run a reboot and say, oh, we're going to do things differently now? Ring of Honor went to the wrestlers themselves and said, hey, what can we change? What can we do?
Exactly.
Because ultimately, pro wrestlers get into it because they're creative people. You can't get into pro wrestling on your own without being a creative person.
I know, and some people still don't understand that. You can still be a good athlete, and if you have good people in your corner, you have good agents, producers, and stuff, you can still make it by. We see that on TV all the time. But sometimes you're going to have to learn the art of professional wrestling, which I think is a lost art, these days. It's so sad. Like this, people can choreograph matches, but if something messes up, they don't know what to do. They just kind of freeze. Sure. That's why we have pages like Botchamania and all this stuff, man. And we all laugh at it. That's funny.
Yeah.
But it's really not funny because that piece of wrestling, that art form of it is going to be completely lost. I mean, wrestling has evolved and it will always evolve, and I've loved what it's evolved into. But if someone who evolves with wrestling, like the styles and where we're going with it, and just takes a little bit of that old school with, oh man, that person is going to be the biggest superstar on the planet.
Is there a particular lost part of that art form that you would like to see maybe make a return that isn't utilized as much today as it once was?
Yes, and it is slowly. There's a few guys, and that's also why I chose, I don't know if you follow the Ring of Honor storylines, but I chose a rookie kind of that I'm mentoring, and he gets it. Like he wrestles that old school style. He has that old school mentality, but he can do all the new things and the new school stuff, which is fantastic. And I'm going to train this kid and teach him everything I've learned in my 25 years in this business. And I feel like he has a great future. And, there's more. There's guys like, I don't want to name any names because they work for other companies, but there are quite a few guys who know the art of professional wrestling.
We had some reader questions, and there were a few that I thought particularly stood out. One said, after your base jumping incident, did you feel the need to change any of your in-ring style? Were you hesitant with any moves after coming back from wrestling? Because obviously you're a high-risk guy, both in and out of the ring.
Yes. It's funny because Wade Barrett always says that. He's like, man, you do crazier things outside of the ring than you do inside the ring. I did think about that for a little while, and I did actually change my style for a little while. And I was studying my favorite wrestler of all time is Fit Finney, but his last run, the early 90s run, Fit Finney, that was my favorite. So I've been studying a lot of tapes like that, and I still do the high-flying stuff, but not as much, because everyone does it now. So I feel like I stand out because I don't do it as much. And everyone knows I can still do it. Plus, I'm 30 pounds heavier than I used to be, so it hurts the other guy a little bit. But I did change my style a little bit, and I thought about it, and I couldn't do a backflip for the longest time because it was a mental thing. Physically, I could do it, but I didn't want to, standing on the top rope, doing a backflip, and then landing on my feet. I couldn't do that. It was I knew physically I could do it, but mentally I just wasn't ready, and that took me a long time. It took me over 2 years, and but now I'm back. Now I'm doing everything. Now I'm actually doing crazier things than I've done before because I go to the parkour studio, and one of my good friends is a stunt guy here in Hollywood, and he's been teaching me some stuff. I don't know if you've seen some of my latest stuff. I've been adding some flips into my dives, which I never used to do. I always used to do backflip, front flip, but now I can do twisty things, and because I get bored in the gym. So for me, going to the parkour studio or the gymnastics that's my training now.
People don't usually add that later in their career. I mean, not just the twists at all. Usually it's if you've done a front flip, back flip forever, adding the twist, what kind of challenges come with that? Is that something you already knew how to do, or is that a skill set that you picked up along the way?
No, I legit, that twist I learned maybe 4 or 5 months ago from my friend's fight. Yeah, I if you go on my Instagram, I show the progressions of it too, and it took me a long time. It's not new, I feel like when you're a kid, you pick up everything so quickly, but as an adult, it takes a little bit longer. But I've learned how to train my body and my brain. You have to just get yourself into a state. They call it Zen Athlete. And if you want to check out this book, it's called Zen Athlete by Matt Belair, and it teaches you how to put yourself in that a theta state. So the first 7 years of a kid's life, he's in theta brainwaves. That's why he picks up everything like a sponge. That's how you learn. That's how you download. So the point of meditation is putting yourself into theta so you can download things from the universe, right? That's how it works. And in sports, it works exactly the same. And many people don't realize that. And this is a new area that athletes are discovering. Well, I guess it's kind of sports psychology. It's hacking the brain. That's what it's called. Or biohacking the body.
You mentioned that you've added 30 pounds of muscle since your WWE days. It's almost the opposite of what a lot of other people are doing, because 10 years ago when you started in WWE, it's everybody wanted to be as big as possible. Now you see guys that are a little bit more lean, and I mean, obviously you're still in awesome shape. You're just way bigger. What goes into that with the world shifting? Wrestling is shifting. There's not necessarily the stigma as much with the leaner, smaller athlete.
Right, and I love it. Like, wrestling is going to evolve. Like,
Yeah.
look where we were 10 years ago. Can you imagine where we're going to be 10 years from now? I'm excited about it, and I feel like some of the best guys evolve with it. Some guys don't have to ever evolve because they just, they've been wrestling for 20, 30 years and they just super over characters. But some people have to. Like, I felt like I had to change. Like, I had to change my style, my look, my character, the way I approach it. I felt like I had to change everything. And I did that for a few reasons, because I kind of got bored, and I want to be challenged. I want to be creative, and I want to see what I can come up with, and seeing fans' responses to that. It's amazing, man. That's why we do it, right? To see
Sure.
the smiles on kids' faces.
As we wrap up, a few more reader questions. This one was very interesting to me. In WWE, how was it decided that you and Heath would be the tag team for groups like Nexus and the Core?
Dude, I don't even remember that. I don't know. I know me and Heath always had good chemistry, inside and outside the ring. We were travel partners on the road for like 4 years. So like, I saw this guy 5 days a week for 4 years. So he's like my brother. He's like my brother. So I guess that we were always joking backstage and like, pulling pranks on people and just like laughing and not taking life seriously. So they were like, yeah, let's put these guys together. Maybe I forget.
This is one that I've always been curious about. What the hell happened with GFW?
Who knows, man? That had so much potential too. I just wish that some of the stuff that we recorded fans could see, because I know they released a few other things, but it wasn't like the whole series, the whole show. We did some really cool stuff, man. I was really hoping that would blow up, but this is a wrestling business. You never know. Two phrases that I learned from Vince is "you never know" and "never say never."
Yeah. And wasn't some of your Darewolf stuff supposed to really make its mark there?
Yeah. Like, Vince loved the logo and the well, actually, this logo came years later. He loved the word Darewolf, but Hunter didn't so much. And WWE actually trademarked it. But there's a law in the U.S. if something is abandoned for, I forget how many days, another company or entity can register it. And I forget, I was online one day and I was just like looking at trademarks and stuff, and that came up that it was abandoned like 2 days before. So I was like, wow, this is a sign. So I was like, trademark immediately.
And the last reader question, and this is one that I'm very intrigued with too. You did your 450 to Vince. What goes through your head when you're told, when you're up there, and as you're flipping through the air?
Oh man, that was a fun one. That was I think that was the one and only time that I ever winded myself, actually. And I will never forget that, because Vince is such a big man. People don't realize, even for his age. If you look at him from the side, he's really wide. He's a bodybuilder. He's a jacked dude. And I must have, just for the first time in my life, I don't know. I remember standing up there too for an extra 10 seconds. I used to always stand up there for a long time, build suspense. But I remember that day I stood there for an even longer time. And I remember like Tarver and Wade and Heath all together said, "Come on, baby." And I remember landing on him, but it was perfect. But it was just, I got so winded, and I looked at him, and then afterwards in the back, I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he's like, "What for?" He was like, "That was great." I was like, okay, cool.
So you would stand up there, and I remembered like the glare that you would give. That would add a lot to it. Like, you would be like, oh man, he's really gonna cream this person. So would you say that was probably one of the hardest you've landed on a guy, and he was just like, meh, whatever?
It was, and it was the weirdest thing. And maybe again too, it's psychology. Like, I'm like, this is my boss, or this is Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's Vince. Like, maybe that's what it was. But it was a cool experience. Like, I totally forgot about that. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm gonna go look for that video clip right now and post it on my Instagram.
Well, Ring of Honor obviously on a little bit of a break right now, but tell the people that maybe haven't watched Ring of Honor for a while what they can look forward to, what you love about Ring of Honor, and what they can enjoy there.
So Ring of Honor has always been known for the wrestling style, the pure wrestling style. We just brought back the pure belt that was gone for a long time. So you're going to see some really cool pure wrestling matches. It's got a unique flavor, unique style. Like, you only get like one rope break in it, and there's very unique rules, which I love. I hope I get to compete in this. But we signed guys like Flip Gordon, Bandito. To me, those two guys are the future of professional wrestling, and that's fantastic. Dragon Lee, they just signed Ray Horace, which is another fantastic sign. And there's a few more guys coming. And you guys just wait and see. And like I say, they've changed up a bunch of things. And Sinclair owns Ring of Honor, and Sinclair also owns the rights to like many other syndicated shows. Like I forget which ones, like Friends and Frasier, and those shows that you always see replays of on cable. So Ring of Honor is the only original content that they create. So it's kind of like their baby, So they want to do well. They were like, since we sold out Madison Square Garden, they were like, wait a minute, we can do something with this. That's what I think the Sinclair office said. So so now they're pumping a lot of money and energy into this. So I'm very excited for this, man. Like I've been doing this for like 25 years. There's like years where you go up and down, and like a few years you're not really feeling it. Like there was like 2 or 3 years where I kind of just lost that spark, that passion, and I was just doing it for a job. And I was just, I feel like fans could sometimes subconsciously pick up on that too. And but now with Lucha, I kind of got that fire back again. And now with Ring of Honor, I'm like, I feel like I'm starting out, like when you're so excited when you just discover wrestling that, I feel like that again. So that's cool.
And Ring of Honor makes it very easy for you guys to check out their shows. They're on Honor Club. They're on Fight TV. They're on their website. Make sure you guys check it out. They have a lot of great content up there. Their YouTube has been on fire lately, uploading a lot of their classic matches. So check that out. Yep. And also follow PJ at DareWolf333 on Twitter. He's always got a lot of interesting stuff up there as well. PJ, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I had a great time.